What is going on, everybody? It is Thursday. Thursday means it's Prize Picks Day, and the dream team is here. Jason, Cody, Alex. Oh, man. We're recovering from a nightmare over this past weekend. Jason, I'll start with you. After the Georgia game, and we talked about how we thought the last three would go, and we kind of baked in maybe Georgia as a loss. I think all of us kind of thought Texas would win. I didn't, but I accidentally predicted.
You're on record as picking them, yeah.
I did it on the show. I picked Georgia, and then I messed up my predictions on Orange Bloods, and I got my names wrong, so I screwed it up. Nonetheless, Jason, how do you feel about this team? I totally did it wrong, Alex. How do you feel about this team over where they are now with 2 games remaining in the season?
I feel like I was duped last week, and I'm so mad at myself for drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak, after the Vanderbilt game. I was like, oh, their backs are against the wall. I talked myself into it because I hadn't picked Texas to beat Georgia all year until last week. And I kind of talked myself into it because I'd gone back to my 3-2-1 column like a month prior, and I was like, oh, they're going to run the table up to A&M. And I was like, you know what the hell? I'll just stick with that prediction. Well, but then my eyes were telling me Georgia's the better team, and we saw that. So what do I think coming out of that game? I don't even think this is a good Texas team, Anwar. I would say it's an above-average Texas team. But it's time to face reality, man. Like we have 2 games left. This is a team that's had 2 overtime games against subpar, bad competition. They got beat by a bad Florida team. I mean, really, they've had 3 good quarters against Vanderbilt, 1 against, I'm talking Power 5 or Power 5 or even SEC, 1 good quarter against Oklahoma almost. And I mean, there's been other play in there. I get it, but it's just not a good football team, man. I think it's time to accept reality, and I think this is a scary week for them against Arkansas.
Cody, you're Mr. Optimism. Has Jason made you jump off your optimistic boat, or is Cody going to go, you know what? They're going to run it back. They're going to win the last 2 and keep it going. What do you think, Cody?
No, I mean, no, I don't know if I'm like the most optimistic, other than the fact that like I still think that Arch Manning has been the best part of this offense for the better part of the last month and a half, and I think it's going to continue to be that way for the next 2 games. It just kind of comes down to who's going to show up to support him and play with him. I definitely thought this offensive line with 3 weeks of cohesion was going to look a hell of a lot better than it did this last week, even though it was Georgia. It was Georgia not of the last 3 years defensively as far as attacking the quarterback, and they blitzed the hell out of him. They got after him. If this offensive line plays the way it does, I think they're going to have a hard-pressed time beating Arkansas. Like that's just the way it is. But you're talking about going back home to DKR. I think this team's going to have a little more energy, hopefully. We'll see what happens with Anthony Hill and stuff like that. But if you give Arkansas a crack, they'll fill it. And they did it against a lot of teams this year in the SEC, whether it was Tennessee, Ole Miss. They push teams to the brink. They fight back in the 4th quarter. Taylor Green's going to be a quarterback that's going to get an opportunity in the NFL. He's a super talented, athletic guy. They got a guy that's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher in Washington. Like Arkansas is going to push you, and they're going to come to fight, and they're going to bring it. And then, and if you lose that game, you might as well write the last one. You might do whatever you want with that. Thing's going to be long gone if you lose to Arkansas. So I'm not the most optimistic, but I will say, like, if Arch Manning's playing at the way he's played the last month and a half and continues to grow like we've seen him, I think this team will be in those games. But if nobody else comes to support, it's going to be a long couple of weeks.
Alex, I feel like we've gone into multiple games this year talking about how an opposing defense struggles to create a pass rush. And then they play against Texas, and they look like the Steel Curtain. I mean, like Kentucky only had a handful of sacks going into that game. And the next thing you know, it seemed like they were having their way. Georgia was towards the bottom as relates to, creating pressure in this conference. And then all of a sudden, there they were. Is the offensive line just, it is what it is at this moment, Alex? And probably not going to get any better, and it's just about patchwork at this moment.
The only way they're going to get better, the only way they're going to get better is if they're playing versus a lesser opponent. And I feel like Arkansas is a lesser opponent. I don't think that the offensive line is magically going to get better. It's like we can't say that we're waiting for Cole Hudson to turn a corner anymore. We have most likely, I'd say, 95% chance that there's 2 games left in this season. And those are the final 2 games of his career at Texas. So it's like we can't, at this point, that guy is what he is. I think that Connor Robertson, I wrote it in my column, I think that Connor Robertson at the most, maybe by this time next year, could be like a poor man's version of a Jake Majors, maybe. I mean, and so you got those 2 guys. You got 2 tackles that are good. They're above average. They're going to continue to develop, and that's sort of those are your building block pieces as far as the offensive line moving forward. There's no depth behind them, but Gooseby and Baker are your real building blocks. DJ Campbell is just as inconsistent as the day is long, but he certainly is going to be a guy that gets a look in the NFL. From week to week, it's just, it's like we were hoping to maybe see some of that consistency bleed over from the Vanderbilt game. It doesn't. And as Cody was saying, it's just, and you were saying just now with Georgia, they hadn't done it all year. They do it against Texas. Everybody does it against Texas. And Georgia, it's not just like they weren't what they were last year. They weren't what they were during the season. They didn't have their top defensive tackle. They didn't have their best linebacker for the starting in the second quarter of this game. I mean, it's like, man, it's like this Texas team. It's like the old Forrest Gump box of chocolates, man. They're impossible to predict. Like you never know what you're gonna get. So I don't know. I think it's a game that Texas could easily lose. There's been a lot of distractions this week. I'm not sure how much it's gonna impact the team and their mentality and their psyche and stuff. If every single player on the team has a head on his shoulders like Michael Taft, then that they're not going to be distracted and they're going to be fine, and they're going to basically take on the Steve Sarkisian mindset and kind of mimic the mentality of their head coach. But there's no Anthony Hill in this game. He's not going to play. He's not going to play. He wants to play. I'm not sure he's being advised to play, and I'm not. Ant Hill, from what I've heard, come hell or high water, wants to play versus A&M. But there's some people who think that maybe he shouldn't, and if he does, he's going to have to wear a club. So it's like he's not playing this week. It's like you got Taylor Green on one side, where it's like, well, you don't have your big, fast superstar linebacker that's the one who can corral these guys. If you're going to get more Ty Anthony Smith, who's had a lot of trouble with missed tackles this year, I wonder with Taylor Green, and we'll talk about the PrizePicks stuff in a minute. But I was looking at the rushing totals for him. They have a pretty high rushing total for him as far as his rush yards, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys think of it. I don't know. Like, it's another week where I come into the PrizePicks prediction show where I feel like my feet are to the fire to make a prediction. I'm not exactly sure which way I'm going to go with it.
Before we get to that part, Alex, you started to allude to something I was wanting to ask you about, which is the defensive side of the ball. We know about the offensive struggles, but over the last 3 games, the defense is giving up an average of 35 points a game. This is something that we felt like we can hang our hat on every week for the majority of the season, Alex. When you've looked at the tape and you've done your analysis and you've watched each play 100 times, and maybe 100 is an exaggeration, but a ton of times, what's been have you seen a common thread on the defense that explains why it's been so leaky over the last 3 games?
Well, the thing that's most frustrating is the way they can't defend the seam.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on with these miscommunication issues on these switch routes. I can't figure it out. I'm just like, how can they be doing? How can they not have this figured out? How can that guy be so open? It's like a couple of tight ends versus Georgia, but then it was also the tight end versus. It's also, Stowers versus Vanderbilt. Was another one. There are these times where it's just like they let him free, and you just wonder how is this even possible? As I look at it, and you look at the coach's view of it or the coach's film of it. And you're just like, well, what was even the plan here to begin with? It's like I have trouble even identifying what the concept is and then really knowing who to assign blame. That's how bad it was messed up. You can't even figure out what the original intent was of the coverage scheme. So I was just like, I don't know, man. I think it's miscommunication issues on the back end, and you would just it was what's frustrating last week is you figure, well, okay, of course you're going to have miscommunication issues when you have Derek Williams, who's probably not going to even be here next year. He's probably going to transfer out, I would guess. You have Xavier Filsaime, who's young and doesn't know what he's doing. You have all these guys, and you're like, oh, well, it's gonna be fine. Once they get Michael Taft back there, he's the cruise director. He's gonna be the one pointing around and telling everybody what to do and all this stuff, and he's gonna be the coach on the field. The lunch pail gym rat, or whatever you want to call him. But it wasn't the case. It wasn't the case. The communication issues on the back end didn't get fixed, and maybe another week of kind of coming together is gonna, practicing all week for these guys is going to help. But I can't explain it. I think Michael Taft, probably you were there this week when he was talking. Like, he had a hard time explaining. He's like, I don't know. We just got to get it together and we got to quit making these mistakes.
Yeah. Real quick, and then we'll get into predictions. Cody, from your perspective, it's been the biggest issue in the run game this year. I mean, Sark has always prided himself in saying, I got 1,000-yard bats, 1,000-yard bats. It's not going to even come close this year. What's been the issue? Is it the backs? Do you feel like their lack of explosiveness, or do you feel like, hey, it's just they just don't have an offensive line that can do much in front of them?
I mean, we're 10 games in, and they don't have 1,000 yards total rushing amongst all the running backs. Like, as a team, they're over 1,200, but as just the running backs don't even have 1,000. You'll be lucky to get a 500-yard rusher. I actually think Trey Wisner's played well at times. The utilization of CJ Baxter kind of is interesting to me. The fact that even the game against Georgia this last week, it's like I feel like he's got to be as healthy as he's been all year, and it's like they use him on like these, he's catching passes and he has a fullback dive and these different things. It's not really like a key role. The bigger thing to me is the first drive of the game against Georgia. There was a couple of big runs from Wisner. And if you watch him back with the coaches via the All-22, you can see some nice cuts that he makes. There's some good blocks there from Gooseby. There's a nice one from Baker. But I think overall it's the cohesion of the offensive line. And we talked about it a lot on Football with Friends the last week coming into this Georgia game was like this offensive line with Hudson, Robertson, and Campbell in the middle. It's going to be 3 weeks of them practicing together. This should be the best offensive line we've seen to this point because it's the most cohesive of the year, which is nuts. But and it didn't come true, and it was actually like the worst game of the year for the entire offensive line. I think that's been the biggest problem with the run game. I don't think Wisner sucks. I mean, he showed us a year ago when he went on a tear for a month rushing. I know he had a better offensive line, obviously, but you don't just fall into a 1,000-yard season. Did he because he played 17 games? Sure, whatever. But you don't just fall into it. I think Wisner's a good back. Is he above average? Is he great? No. But I blame a lot of this on the offensive line and the cohesiveness, the ability for Wisner to just have reps behind that offensive line to read off their butts and hit his holes, find his holes, and know where to cut, when to cut, and amongst of many other things. I think that's kind of the biggest key for me.
All right, Jason, let's. You've had some time to think. We got to do predictions. We've been pretty horrible this year as relates to our predictions. I don't know who's in the lead right now. I'm not even looking on Fridays. But Jason, go ahead. Let's try it one more time. Let's see if we can get one of these correct. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah. Well, I think the line opened. I think it was 10.5 is what I saw maybe on Sunday, and it's down. I'm showing 8.5 as we record this. So that doesn't give you the warm fuzzies, right? Once again for Texas. I mean, listen, we've all said it on this show. This is a game that Arkansas can win. And, if Texas doesn't play well and doesn't score some points, in what version of this Texas defense is going to show up? Anwar, I'm going to give Texas the benefit of the doubt, not
famous last words. Right?
Exactly. Not because I think Texas is good. You guys heard me say I think they're a slightly above average football team. I think Arkansas is probably a slightly below average football team. They're not as bad as their record, I don't think. But I think Texas wins at home. I tell you what Alex said, and I think I said it on your show on Tuesday, though, or I don't remember where I said it, on one of these shows. Some of these distractions, though, worry a little bit, right, Alex? Like all this stuff that people talking about Sark and what's going on. Like, I promise you the players are hearing it. Recruits hear it too. I mean, can they tune it out? Can they stay focused? It worries you a little bit coming off a bad loss. And then that stuff, you kind of circulating out there on social media and stuff. But I just think Texas is the slightly better team, and that's not a compliment, being slightly better than a 2-8 Arkansas team. So I'm going to take Texas 30, Arkansas 27.
Okay, Jason, I got you down for 30 to 27. Cody, kind of same along those lines. Do you worry about distractions at all, Cody? I mean, especially not only that, Cody, add in, the COP rankings came out. More than likely, Texas, it would take a lot to make it to the playoffs. So, if this team doesn't have a ton to play for other than bowl positioning, do you worry about that at all?
I think there's the distraction part. I think has a lot to warrant. You have to wonder how much of that has made it into the locker room and made it into the team, and even some of the things you're hearing that maybe true or not true about that side. It's like you don't know what is true and what's not to see how close they all are, or how if any of them are pulled apart or have dipped out on the season. I've been a part of both sides of that in my playing career, of teams that are completely out of it and teams that are completely locked in even when something bad happens. And this is a rivalry game that, when I hear it from both sides, from the Texas side, it's not really the biggest rivalry. And we hear from the Arkansas side, they want to, like, this is like their Super Bowl. They treat it like it's like the biggest game of the year, with the way they talk about it. This is only their second time coming to Austin in the last 25 years. The last time Texas was ranked 7th and Arkansas was unranked, Texas won 52-10. That was the only time Bobby Petrino's ever been to Austin. And he was asked about it this week, and he's like, thanks for reminding me. The time before that, Texas was ranked 6th in 2003, and they got beat 38-28 by an unranked Arkansas team. And I wonder, more than anything, has any of this Sarkisian conversation or the Anthony Hill injury, has any of this really worked its way through this team? And if the defense doesn't show up because they got punched in the mouth last week, or the offense doesn't show up because they got punched in the mouth last week, and they're just kind of moseying in to DKR, luckily it's not a noon kick, but if they just come moseying in there, they're going to get punched in the mouth by Arkansas. And I think Texas is going to win this game, but I think it's going to be just like every other Arkansas game this year. It's going to come right down to the wire. I'm going to take all the overs, I think, this week. And I'm going to go 38-35 Arkansas, or 38-35 Texas.
Texas. Okay. For maybe a slip. Is that in overtime? Are you going to be bold? Like, I think
I'm not doing overtime.
Had an overtime
no.
prediction this year, right? No, just regular. Okay.
Might as well. Right?
Yes. Trailing by 21 heading into the fourth quarter, and they come back and win in overtime. Alex, what do you got, man? I went second to last with you, Alex, because I want to give you time to think about it.
You also gave me time to get in a quick PrizePicks thing of my own here due to an injury that just occurred. Cody, you might want to get in on that Michael Wilson 56.5 after they said Marvin Harrison Jr. is out. Look, to me, the thing is, I think that this is going to be a hard game for Texas. Do any of you guys think it's going to be some kind of walk in the park? It doesn't seem like it based on what you said. Okay.
Nope.
So I think they win like 31-28 or something. I'll just say that 31-28, and it's overtime. It goes 28-28. They get the ball in the first overtime. The Texas defense comes up with a miraculous stop. They miss the field goal. Texas doesn't get in the end zone, and they kick a field goal, and Texas wins. And crowd probably rushes the field. I don't know. I doubt that. Tear down the goalpost.
Tear down the goalpost. Go down to the lake and throw it in there.
How much did A&M beat these guys by?
Barely, not much, like 3 or 4.
They only have one bad loss this season.
But Arkansas scored like a last-second touchdown to make it look closer. But it was
45-42.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was close pretty much throughout the game. So
they've only had one bad loss this year, and everything else has been within spitting distance at that point.
But I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Texas lost. It's like I I wouldn't be surprised. And here's the thing, too. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they like lost versus Arkansas, then won versus A&M. This team's so inconsistent. They're really hard to handicap.
What ended up being your score prediction, Alex?
28-31.
28-31. Oh, okay. You did that in reverse. Okay. So I'm going 34-31 Texas, but just like you guys, man, if you told me that score ended up being reversed and Arkansas pulled it off late, I wouldn't be surprised. It is, like you said, this is an interesting week where you can either rally the troops or everybody kind of starts doing their own thing. Like, I don't know what it looks like in that locker room. If you've got a bunch of kids, 5 stars, who are looking at it and saying, man, I haven't even played this year. I've barely played. Like, are guys still dialed in? Are they checking out mentally? I don't know. So I'm going to, once again, do the Jason thing. I'm going to give this program the benefit of the doubt, but that has bit me in the ass all year long, giving them.
What is the saying? Fool me 10 times, shame on us.
Well, it's at least been at least 3 times we've been fooled. That's for sure. And we've probably been fooled in a bunch of others. So I'm going to go 34-31 Arkansas, but I wouldn't bet your mortgage or 401k on it. All right. We also have PrizePicks. I forgot to mention, play $5, get $50 instantly using that promo code Orange Bloods. We do have some preliminary numbers that are up here. Alex, I'll get it started with you. Anything you see up here that kind of moves you that you say, I love, or will you be waiting till later in the week to see if there's more lines that are put out?
How bad Cody? How bad is the Arkansas defense, you think? I think they're real bad.
Well, their coverage unit is 15th out of 16 in the SEC right now. Yeah. And they're 59th out of 68 in the Power 4. And their 2 cornerbacks have allowed the 4th and 6th most receiving yards to opposing receivers in the country.
Ryan Wingo had 13 targets last week. If his hand's not super messed up against this defense, like, what is his? My eyes are getting worse and worse.
Yeah, this is like what is this, like a 10-point font here, like -25? Let's see.
So it's 68.5 receiving yards. I think I'd be inclined to take more on that. Maybe take less on Trey Wisner. Man, he just he's showing a kind of real lack of explosion right now, and with CJ Baxter getting more and more healthy, CJ Baxter played a whole lot down the stretch of that game last week. Wisner was effective, relatively effective early there on that first drive, but after that, he was made completely neutralized. I think that when you look at Wingo and you just realize, like I said, I think it was 13 targets last week. He has like a 20. It was up to a 27% target share for a while. I think it's now closer to 25 or whatever, but that's still a super, that's a real hog of a target rate, right? He's a definite target hog. And if they can't get the run game going, we know what they're going to do. They're going to throw it to him out on the screen passes and let him get yards after catch. It's a terrible defense. They're at home. They're going to dial some. Yeah, I think Wingo goes over 68.5.
What about you, Cody? Anything in here that moves you?
I kind of said at the beginning, I'm pretty keen on taking all the overs here for Arch passing. I think Jason said it before we came on live. I think you can take that thing all the way up to 349 if you really want to get dirty with it. But I'm taking the 268.5. I like the Ryan Wingo number. I think he cracks through that. DeAndre Moore, I'm kind of staying away from right now. I think that's a good line. I hope they give us some Emmett Mosley by the end of the week, because I'll take pretty much anything.
They have been under projecting him every single week for his role on this team.
Yeah, I whatever they give us, I think if they give us something on Thursday or Friday, they don't have anything right now while we're recording. But if they give me some Emmett Mosley, I'll take that. Omega Blake's had a couple of down weeks for Arkansas, but he's their leading receiver as well. I'll probably take that. As far as the Taylor Green side goes, I don't know if I'll take much of him, but as far as the Texas side, I like Arch. I like Wingo. I'll love Mosley, and I'm kind of with Alex on the Wisner thing. I'm kind of going to stay away from that.
Sukamel, this 15.5 rushing for Arch, is that a gimme for you?
No. I mean, his last 4 games, -17, 4, 6, -1. It's not on the screen, but there is one that I'm showing. It's Arch's longest rush, 12.5. Weird that I wouldn't take the 15.5 rushing yards, but I think maybe I would take the 12.5 longest rush. Obviously, the sacks factor into the total rushing yards, but I could see Arch running the ball up 2 or 3 times on this one and, converting the chains and getting a 12.5. I do like I don't think I would play the Wingo. I mean, it makes sense just on what we've seen lately, but the injury possibly still affecting him and being reevaluated, it makes me a little gun shy. I'm with Cody. If they had an Emmett Mosley yardage total, I would jump on that. They do have him the longest reception, 22.5. I don't know if that's on the screen or not, but they do have 22.5. They have DeAndre Moore, 20.5 longest, Mosley, 22.5, and then DeAndre Moore, 44.5. So maybe you can figure Mosley be 46, 47 yards. I would take that. I'd say DeAndre Moore, he's at 44.5. He's hit it 4 out of the last 5, and the one he didn't was against Kentucky, where the offense was terrible, and even that one he got 37. So I would probably personally take that one over the Wingo one, even though Wingo's been hot too. I think maybe we kind of sleep on DeAndre Moore, and it's like he's been sneaky in PrizePicks and hitting his numbers. So those are some of my thoughts on the Texas players.
Before we go into just broader terms, Cody, are there any Red Devils that I can talk you into? Is it, if you want to just live life on the edge, you're trying to get some Christmas presents and some Christmas money, could an Emmett Mosley touchdown be something that moves you? I know the CJ Baxter number seems a little bit high. Any Devils that you would say, I might be inclined to that?
Yeah, I think you can interest me in I think you hit the nail on the head, was the Emmett Mosley rush plus receiving touchdown. I think I would take Arch, probably conservatively. I'll just go 299. I wouldn't go up to 349. And then the receiving one, I would push Wingos to 99. I would just say I think this is going to be a big game. Those would be my 3 Red Devils if I had to choose 3. Be a Emmett Mosley touchdown, Arch at 299, and Wingo at 99.
What about Mason Shipley, 1.5 field goals made? Or is this a game where Sark thinks like, hey, we need touchdowns, not field goals? 1.5 field goals seems like.
All right. Alex, let's start with outside of Texas. Internet issue, by the way.
Were you asking me if it was moving me?
Actually, I think I had an internet issue, Alex. So that was my bad. What I was going to ask you was no, I was trying to ask you. Thank you, Spectrum. What I was trying to ask you, Alex, is outside of Texas, was there anything else that was moving you or moves the needle for you, whether it's college or NFL or anything else?
A couple things, but I'd be interested. I should have looked this up before. It feels like Parker Livingston scores at home every time he plays at home. Doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like he always scores in DKR? Maybe he doesn't, but it kind of feels like it.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
So some of the ones that I've been kind of messing around with, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna like make them official plays or not, but I'm definitely keeping an eye on the Jared Goff on his passing yards. Right now it's at 257.5. They're playing the Giants, and that's showing up in our matchup algorithm as the number 3 matchup for opposing quarterbacks this week. They're back. I believe they're back at home. Cody, the Lions are back at home, right?
You think so?
I think they're yeah. All right. Well, I know that their last 5 games are in domes anyway, so they're at least in a dome, even if they're not back home. But I'm just looking at a couple of different projection systems here that have him closer to like 300, 302. It makes sense to me. Yeah. Okay. It makes sense to me. Dan Cable takes over play calling. A weird kind of down week last week where Amon-Ra St. Brown got taken out of the football game. I think that there's some narratives that are starting to creep up about, why does he feed Jamison Williams the ball so much? What about Amon-Ra? I think he gets him back involved, and I think that's going to be good for the passing offense in general. This game's got a 50.5 point total. I think I'm talking myself on to just taking Jared Goff here early in the week over 257.5 passing yards. And then I mentioned it earlier, but I'm not sure how long the line will stay at 56.5 yards, but Michael Wilson's still sitting there at 56.5, and Marvin Harrison has been ruled out for another week. And we saw last year without Marvin Harrison, clearly Jacoby Brissett's not going to drop back 57 times in every single game, but it's hard to deny a guy that just goes off for 18 targets, 15 catches and 185 yards last week with no MHJ, and he's playing Jacksonville this week, and they have him at 56.5. It feels like that thing could shift. Unless they're just trying to bait me into something stupid, I'm really interested in taking Michael Wilson right here at that 56.5 number more.
Cody, what about you? What are you seeing on the board?
I got 2 for Thursday night, and I got 1 for Sunday. Tyler Warren's back off bye. I take his first quarter receiving yards at 8.5. That's I love these first quarter receiving yard numbers. Been hitting him hard at Roster Watch in our premium section. And then on Thursday night, I got Jaden Higgins, 26.5 receiving yards. Our projections come through at 33 yards. He's against Buffalo, and Nico Collins is going to be the key guy there. And Jaden Higgins has been getting targeted the last couple of weeks. And then the biggest edge is in Shelton Sampson in the Lafayette Arkansas State game. He's projected for 64 receiving yards. His number's at 57.5. And both those games are on Thursday night.
Wow. All right, Jason, last but not least.
I'm only on one, and I actually packaged it with Taco Tuesday. They had a free Taco Tuesday play. So Travis Kelce, it's a number one most popular pick, but they've got him at 51.5 against the Colts at home. They're going to need points against the Colts. That's not going to be a 17-14 game. He's averaged almost 78 yards per game over his last 5, coming off a 91-yard performance against a good Denver defense. So I'm on board with the Travis Kelce. I don't like Travis Kelce. Can't stand the dude. But I'm playing him this week, so I hope he comes through for me. I hope I didn't just bring some bad karma on myself.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. All right. Play $5, get $50 instantly. We'll have to get to the bottom of why Jason doesn't like Travis Kelce, but we'll do that.
He sucked when he was on my fantasy team. It's as simple as that. When I had him a couple years ago, he was terrible.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, nonetheless, you're going to go with him this week. Play $5, get $50 instantly. Use that promo code OrangeBuds for Alex, Cody, Jason, and of course, Catch and myself. Hey, you guys go out and have a fantastic week. Hopefully our predictions are correct, at least for a Texas win, and hopefully it's a good one as well. You guys take care. We'll be back next week. Peace.